Hello and welcome to the Week 15 ONIT Recap Show. This week we have conference championships to discuss, playoff spots that have been settled, and elite performances from some of the best players in the country. We'll dive into all of that in just a moment, but before we do, please do hit that subscribe button and like the video as it really does help us out. And stick around to the end of the show to find out how you can get involved in one of our upcoming episodes as we head into bowl season. With that out of the way, let's begin by taking a look at what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Our Week 15 ONIT Recap box features our locally sourced but nationally relevant headlines for each of our teams that played in a conference championship game this weekend. We'll also take a look at the 5 elite players who made the grade with their performances in those games. And lastly, we'll look ahead to the final college football playoff rankings as we take a look at our nationally relevant but locally sourced headlines for all of those teams that did make the playoff. We begin by talking about our Friday night contest in the Mountain West. Boise State are the Mountain West champions. They take down UNLV by a final score of 38-21 at home at Albertson Stadium. Big win for the Broncos as they win their 3rd straight Mountain West championship, all of them coming over UNLV, and they beat UNLV for the 2nd time this season. Both of those games happening in Boise. Maddox Madsen returned from his injury, played great for the Broncos. He won Offensive MVP of the Mountain West Championship thanks to his 4-touchdown performance. He looked like his usual self out there. He was able to find all of his open receivers, and whenever Boise State needed a play, he made one. Speaking of guys being all over the field, Ty Benefield made a lot of stuff happen for the Broncos in this game, winning Defensive Mountain West Championship MVP. 7 tackles, a fumble recovery, and a tackle for loss. He was all over the field for a Boise State defense that really clamped down in the first half and held the Rebels down. It was all Boise State for most of this game. They kind of took the pedal off the gas in the 3rd quarter. UNLV was able to make it 28-21, but then Boise State with the 10 unanswered to salt this thing away. Really helped the Broncos become Mountain West champions once again. It's the last game that Boise State will play in the Mountain West, as well as they're on their way to the Pac-12 next year, and they will go out on top. They've already supposedly accepted an invite to the LA Bowl, where they will take on another ONIT team in the form of the Washington Huskies. That'll be a fun game to watch. It's happening on December 13th, so less than a week away, we'll see Boise State back in action against the Huskies again. Looking forward to that game, and once again, congratulations to the Broncos on a big Mountain West championship. Alabama falls 28-7 in the SEC Conference Championship game and opens up an absolute Pandora's box for the playoff committee when it comes to the rankings. We'll talk more about how Alabama actually did get ranked when we get to the college playoff look ahead at the end of the episode. But really, the committee had 2 schools of thought here. There's 2 ways to look at it. One, you can look at it as Alabama should not be punished for having to play the number 3 team in the country in a conference championship game. Although they lost, although they did not move the ball effectively on offense in the game, do they deserve to be punished compared to teams like Notre Dame, like Miami, who did not even play in their conference championships, but yet get the benefit of Alabama losing to one of the best teams in the country, a team that maybe would have beat either of those teams had they played them on this neutral field? Or you can look at the other side from the committee and say Alabama does deserve to be punished. They showed up in this game and they didn't show up. You know, they were at the game, but they didn't show up. They lost. Their only drive that resulted in a touchdown was aided by 2 massive Georgia penalties. And for that reason, they fall behind Notre Dame, Miami, and some of these other teams on the outside looking in. It's the same scenario that the committee was in with BYU. And again, we'll talk about all of this when we get to the final playoff rankings later on in the episode. But realistically, we have a conundrum here in regards to, do conference championships games matter? And if they matter, then do the negatives and the positives matter, or just the positives and just the negatives? And those are questions that I don't think anybody has the answer to, no matter who you ask. So Alabama losing 28-7 to Georgia in this game has really opened up that Pandora's box. I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below on what you think you would have done if you were on the committee, whether Alabama was ranked correctly or whether you would like to see these conference championship games get changed. Our ONIT game of the week was the Big Ten championship game featuring both number 2 Indiana and number 1 Ohio State, as Indiana joined the ONIT lineup this Friday. The Hoosiers are live, so if you want to collect the team set for the Big Ten champs, you can find them on the ONIT Athlete website. But Fernando Mendoza and the Hoosiers, I mean, the first time since 1967 that they have been Big Ten champions. It was during World War II that they were last outright champions of this conference, and Fernando Mendoza and the rest of the Hoosiers managed to get it done. Absolutely unbelievable stuff for Indiana. They went toe-to-toe with Ohio State. Imagine telling somebody 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Indiana was going to go toe-to-toe with Ohio State in a Big Ten championship game. You wouldn't have believed it. The defenses for both teams were absolutely stifling, and really, in this 13-10 win for Indiana, it came down to fourth down execution. 2 big plays for Ohio State that cost them in this ball game when you look back at it. 4th and 1, Julian Sain goes for a quarterback sneak, ends up half a yard short, maybe a little bit further than that. Turnover on downs inside the red zone. Next time Ohio State gets inside the red zone, they're down by 3. They get to 4th and 1 again. They decide, let's take the field goal, take the points, tie this game up with less than 4 minutes to play. They miss the field goal on 4th and 1. That ends up being the difference in the ball game as Mendoza and the Hoosiers pick up the first down that they need to bleed the rest of the clock and win this game. That was the difference, really, just those 2 plays on 4th down in the red zone. If they play this game again today, Ohio State maybe wins. Ohio State maybe wins it 27-13, 27-20, 20-13. Who knows? But there were just a couple of plays for Ohio State that went wrong in this game. But what you can take away from this game for certain is that both of these teams have elite defenses, and moving the ball against them in the college football playoff is not going to be an easy task for anybody that they play. Indiana will now be the number 1 overall seed in the entire country. The Buckeyes will still get a bye after they lose to the only other undefeated team left in the nation in Indiana. But this was a great game, really fun one to watch. Both of these teams should make a lot of noise in the playoffs. But man, congratulations to Indiana. What a huge victory. And like I said, if they play the Buckeyes again in the national championship, who knows how it will go, because this game was decided by just a couple of plays. This is Making the Grade, where we talk about our 5 best ONIT performers over conference championship weekend, beginning with our near mint 8s. Both of these players coming from the Ohio State University in their 13-10 loss to Indiana. We start on the defensive side of the ball because we love NIL for all at ONIT. We'll start with Davison Igbinosun. He had himself an interception in this game that helped set up Ohio State with a scoring drive. He also had 4 tackles. 3 of them were solo. It's the second straight game with an interception for Igbinosun, and he was one of the reasons that Ohio State was in this game until the very final moments. On the other side, on the offensive side for Ohio State, earning himself a near mint 8 is the elite wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Indiana has a great pass defense. That was on full display in this game, but one guy got to them multiple times. That was Smith. 8 catches, 144 yards. With a long catch of 52. It seemed like he was open on every route. No matter what Indiana did, they would double, they would triple team him at times, and still Jeremiah Smith found ways to make plays, move the chains, big explosive catches all over the field. For his performance, he earns himself a near mint 8 grade. Moving on to our mint 9s. We'll go back to the defensive side of the ball and talk about Boise State's safety Ty Benefield. Benefield had himself a great game for the Broncos. He was named the Mountain West Defensive MVP for his performance in the win over UNLV. He had 7 tackles, including a tackle for loss. He also recovered a fumble for Boise State in their 38-21 win over the Rebels, as the Broncos became 3-time in a row Mountain West champions. Let's talk about the offensive MVP from the Big Ten championship game. That's Fernando Mendoza for the Indiana Hoosiers. Again, Indiana now live on the ONIT website. This is Mendoza's first time appearing on Making the Grade, as he did what he needed to do to win the game for Indiana. 15 of 23 through the air for 222 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And when the Hoosiers needed him most, he came up with a big connection late in the game, right before the 2-minute warning, to move the sticks, picked up 30 yards for Indiana, and sealed the win for the Hoosiers, who are Big Ten champs for the first time in over 50 years. Crazy stuff there from Indiana, but there can only be 110. Let us know if you agree down in the comments below with our pick this week. But our pick for this week's Gem Mint 10 performer is Maddox Madsen for the Boise State Broncos. He came back from injury and didn't miss a beat. 17 of 31 through the air for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. Added in a rushing score, which got Boise State on the board to open the contest, and really did it all for the Broncos as they won the Mountain West Championship yet again. Madsen had a great game, and for his return from injury to play as well as he did, he's our Gem Mint 10 performer this week. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you agree or disagree with the grade, would love to hear who you thought had the best performance of the weekend. And now let's take a look at these final college football playoff rankings and see who's in and who's out. The bracket has arrived. This is the college football playoff bracket. As you can see, we had 5 ONIT teams make it in. Number 1, Indiana. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 7, Texas A&M. Number 8, Oklahoma. And number 9, Alabama. All make their way into the college football playoff bracket here, representing our ONIT schools. A lot of the discussion, of course, about this bracket is going to be about Alabama losing to Georgia, Miami getting in over Notre Dame, and BYU falling. We talked about that Pandora's box scenario that Alabama opened earlier by losing to Georgia. It's interesting to see that Alabama seems to get no punishment. In fact, they do get no punishment, as they were number 9 last time the committee did these rankings. But BYU actually falls, losing to Texas Tech. Obviously, BYU got blown out by the Red Raiders. But it's very interesting to see, earning the opportunity to play in your conference championship. Again, does it matter? Does it not matter? Very slight dings here. Ohio State, I thought maybe that they could fall all the way down to 4, being not a conference champion. Instead, they're only dinged 1 spot. They just flip-flop with Indiana. So our 2 ONIT teams switch there. Again, they both get byes. So this is how it sets up for us going into the playoff season. For our ONIT teams, one of them will be eliminated guaranteed in the first round, as Alabama has to travel to Oklahoma. That'll be a rematch of a game that Oklahoma barely won. Alabama turned the ball over in that game multiple times, really cost them in what was a very close loss at home in Tuscaloosa. Can they right the ship on offense and win that game on the road in Norman against one of the best defenses in the country? That'll be a fun first round matchup to watch. And then Texas A&M gets Miami at home in College Station. A&M beat Notre Dame, who Miami beat to get into this playoff. A&M did that in South Bend. I was actually at that game. It was an incredible game to be at, and A&M won it by a single point on the very last second. How do they match up with Miami? They do get the benefit of staying home. That should be a really fun one to watch. And then as we move into the next round, we will have an ONIT versus ONIT matchup in those New Year's Eve and New Year's Day bowls, as Indiana will be playing the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma. So we'll have another ONIT versus ONIT matchup there. It'll be the 1 seed versus either the 8 or the 9. And then Ohio State and Texas A&M could match up. If this bracket goes chalk, it would be A&M versus Ohio State. That would be a really fun game to watch, as A&M already has some huge wins this year. Their only loss came against Texas, who's a team that played Ohio State very close. So it would be a fun game to watch there in the quarterfinals before we get to the semis. But all of that is coming down the pipeline later. That's all the time we have on today's show. What do you think about the bracket? Let us know down in the comments below. And also, if you pull any hits from these incredible teams, if you get any of those new Indiana Hoosiers cards or some amazing gravity cards, drop them in the link down below. It's also in the description for you. You can submit your hits. We'll share them in a future video, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks everybody for watching today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have fun with bowl season. We'll be back to talk about all the upcoming bowls here very, very shortly. And be on the lookout for the AP poll reaction dropping tomorrow.